Welcome, everyone. Finally, it's the last part of our syllabus, the humans' effect on ecosystems. Are we making things better or is it getting worse? Let's discover. So, agriculture. To provide enough food for the millions and billions of people on Earth, we have advanced greatly with agricultural methods. Now we use machinery, now we use fertilizers, we use also pesticides, and pesticides have a great advantage. Now let's remember the word, any word ending in "icide" means it kills. So insecticides, we know them, they kill insects. Pesticides, they kill pests. And pests are living organisms that cause damage to our crops. So if I have a way of controlling or getting rid of these pesticides, then my crop yield will increase. That's the great advantage of using pesticides. But unfortunately, there are some disadvantages uh, attached to using pesticides. First of all, many of them are synthetic. So they have been made by humans. It is not a natural chemical, so they are non-biodegradable, meaning that they do not break down by organisms, by decomposers, by enzymes in living things, so they are unable to be broken down naturally. So this causes them to persist in food chains and accumulate, so that organisms in the top part of a food chain, top carnivores, usually have a high concentration of these pesticides in their system, and this might cause them harm, could kill them. Another disadvantage, well, the problem is using pesticides over and over, year after year, causes the emergence of resistant pests. So mutation happens. Organisms, some of them have favorable genes that allow them to survive even when we use these pesticides, and a new generation of resistant pests are produced. Well, another disadvantage is that pesticides are non-specific, meaning that it kills harmful and useful organisms. One of the great concerns we have now is the bees that are useful for pollination. They are now endangered in many areas due to the excessive use of pesticides. So, is there a solution? Well, yes. Fortunately, when we think about a problem, we come up with a solution, and actually, nature has the solution for us. Biological control is when we use the natural predator of a pest so that it decreases their numbers, thereby increasing the crop yield. This is an example. Over here we have a ladybird, this lovely insect that we have seen as children. They feed on aphids and small insects that feed on plant sap, the liquid that flows in the phloem tubes that is rich in sucrose and amino acids. As they feed on that, this weakens the plant and decreases the crop yield. So bringing in the predator usually is a good way, natural way, that does not cause emergence of resistant pests and does not harm the environment. Another problem that we will study about is deforestation. You might have learned about that in previous years. Why do we cut down trees in rainforests, especially rainforests? Rainforests actually hold about 70 or 80% of the living organisms on Earth. The variety in rainforests is bewildering. Now, why do we need to cut down trees? Well, sometimes we need the land to grow crops in some areas when we want to expand and we have no areas but to take the land where trees or forest trees are there. Um, we need the land for building new cities, roads, or factories. Maybe we need the wood to make paper. We need the wood to make furniture and build houses. and we might be using the wood for heating or for cooking. So there are many different reasons why people cut down trees. Are there bad effects of deforestation? Oh, there are many. Actually, I would like to show you how I try to remember all the different effects of deforestation. I draw at this drawing, so if you look with me, you will find clues to the negative effects of deforestation. First of all, animals lose their habitat and they either migrate if there is a very close area for them to migrate to, or unfortunately, they might die. Animals also will have no food because the forest, with its leaves and roots and barks and fruits, provide a lot of food for many different organisms, and the less food there is, less animals will be able to survive. They might migrate if they're fortunate, or they would die. There are less plants and therefore less photosynthesis. Less oxygen is produced, and more importantly, there will be more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We're going to talk about this effect further along this session. There are no roots to absorb rainwater. Less plants, especially on high lands such as mountains and hills, if these plants were cut down, the water uh, by rainwater or will start to flow quickly down this hill or mountain or whatever, causing floods. Fortunately, if we grow plants, this will be reduced. No roots holding the soil also can cause soil erosion where the topsoil is not very deep. It's about a couple of meters or maybe 1 or 2 meters deep. And if there is nothing to hold these soil particles together, then wind and water will wash it out or blow it away so that it is less fertile after a couple of years. So the problem is magnified. So after cutting these trees in the forest, it gets even difficult to grow any other plants, either crops or other trees to replace the old trees. So this reduces the fertility of the soil, causing soil erosion. More carbon dioxide in the air. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas and it is one of the primary causes of global warming. So this is another problem. Global warming will cause ice in the North Pole, South Pole to melt. This will raise the sea level water. This will cause more floods to areas that are close to the shore, and also it will cause more melting of the ice caps on mountains and again causing floods. So we'll try to stop that, wouldn't we? Finally, we would find that plants, where there are less plants, there will be less transpiration. There will be less humidity in the air because there is less transpiration. Therefore, there will be no way of formation of new clouds, and therefore there will be less rain in that area, causing droughts in many areas. Greenhouse gases. These are the gases that help to trap the heat that comes from the sun, keeping our atmosphere warm enough so that many plants and animals are able to survive. Now, it's good that we have these greenhouse gases, but up to a limit. If it's more than that, we will have what we call the enhanced greenhouse effect, where the temperature rises above the normal range. We have a chart here showing some of the greenhouse gases. We can see that carbon dioxide is a primary uh, problem with causing climate change. Methane comes next. Halogens, nitrogen oxides, and other gases such as water, vapor, they also increase, but not that much. So usually when we talk about greenhouse gases, we refer to carbon dioxide and methane. Having particles in the air, suspended in the air, like soot and dust, this causes a negative effect. It cools down the temperature. So, yes, it's pollution in a way reduces the greenhouse gas effect. So, here we have a chart that shows the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere beginning with 1975 up to 220. We can see a steady increase in the carbon dioxide concentration. How does that affect the atmosphere? Well, let's have a look. Here we have scientists were able to track the temperature in on Earth 800,000 years ago up till today. What a great achievement they did. And when they found the carbon dioxide level, right, they found that it never increased above 300 parts per million in these 800,000 years. Now, in comparison, now we have the in 2018, the carbon dioxide concentration is above 407 parts per million. So we did cause a great change in carbon dioxide concentration. Humans were the reason for that change, isn't it? So the effect we can see here on the temperature, this graph shows the changes, the anomalous changes to temperature throughout years, starting with 1880 till 2000 and almost 20. We can see that temperatures used to go below the normal. Now they're going up and much higher than the normal temperature, around an extra 1 degree Celsius than normal. The global warming effects. Now, the numbers don't show the massive effects to the environment. For reference here, we have this person standing on this glacier, or maybe this mound of snow or ice, and this part is melting, creating a river of ice. This is a lot of melting. This is unprecedented. So this increased ice melting increases the sea level, as we have spoken before. And as we can see here, some cars that have been parking in a place near the sea, in a port probably, they are now flooded by this increased sea level water. Some damaging effects of global warming. We have very strong storms and very fierce floods. These storms were able to make this ship move out of the sea into the mainland. Such a strong storm it must have been. And floods over here causing damages to houses, to fertile lands, causing the loss of lives of some people and animals, causing damage of crops, and some machinery and factories are also damaged. So a lot is damaged. Using inorganic fertilizers. We use them to enhance the fertility of soil, to grow stronger plants, bigger plants. The problem with using inorganic fertilizers, if used excessively, they are very soluble in water, nitrates and potassium ions and these are very soluble in water, and they run off with the excess water that reaches rivers and lakes. This causes an increased growth of algae. Algae covers the surface of the water, as you can see here in this top photo on the right side. The water looks green in color. Now this layer of green color prevents light from reaching the bottom part of the water where plants are usually using the sunlight to grow. These plants die, and when they die, decomposers start decomposing them, using up oxygen as they respire aerobically. And as the decomposers increase in numbers and replicate, this causes more oxygen to be used up, and the oxygen level is reduced to a very low level that fish begin to die, and other plants also. So this causes all living organisms to die in the river except for algae and decomposers. Air pollution, or more specifically, acid rain. When we burn fossil fuels in cars, in our factories, gases are released. We call them acidic gases because when they dissolve in water, the water is acidic. That is because the gases are sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, and then when they dissolve in rain, they are sulfuric acid and nitric acid, very strong acids. Uh, of course, it is not a very concentrated form of that acid. It does not cause harm to humans, but the accumulative effect of this rain falling day after day, year after year, causes damage to many different things. It kills plant life, it pollutes the rivers and streams, it erodes anything that is made out of stone. Here we can see the effects in more detail. So here roots have been damaged and the plants now are unable to absorb the water and minerals from the soil, so it causes them to die. The leaves are damaged by this effect as well, by acid rain. The water is acidic, killing fish and stopping their eggs from hatching. The limestone buildings that are usually old buildings that we hold dear to us because of its heritage is damaged by um, the acid rain, dissolving away the statues and the monuments that we want to keep. How can we get rid of this problem, or how can we solve it? To reduce acid rain, we can reduce the amount of fossil fuels. We can do that in many ways. We're going to talk about that again later. So you can use public transport instead of going in a car on your own. So more people are using the same transportation. You can use a bicycle, you can walk, you can reduce the amount of electricity you use by switching off any unnecessary light bulbs or devices in your house, at work. Use more natural gas than petrol and coal. That is because natural gas has less of the sulfur compounds and the nitrogen compounds, so that less acidic gases are produced. If we are able to generate electricity using renewable energy, that would be excellent because this does not produce any carbon dioxide, so there is no problem with global warming, and it produces less, as none of the acid rain actually. So this also solves the problem of acid rain. Another problem with air pollution is nuclear fallout. This is because of the radioactive particles that are produced if a nuclear bomb was used, or if there was leakage in any of the nuclear plants. So this causes the accumulation in the tissues of organisms and causing cancer or genetic damage. One of the problems that we're going to talk about is overfishing. Again, we need to provide enough food for the growing population of humans. So humans are catching more fish every year. They have bigger boats, they have bigger nets. They are catching more fish every year. So the problem that would occur from that is that we have less and less fish in the sea. we do not give it enough time, don't give the fish enough time to reproduce and to overcome the number loss that has been caused by fishing. So, are we going to solve the problem, or are we to overcome the effects of overfishing? What could we do? Well, governments have started to make laws to let fishermen catch only certain fish, these that are not endangered of becoming extinct, or maybe catch certain masses of fish every day so that there is enough time for the fish to reproduce and uh, replace the numbers that have been taken away. Also, they can ask the fishermen to use a special size of nets that will catch bigger fish but allow the smaller fish to escape back into the sea, which will help the small fish to grow and then reproduce so that this helps the cycle to go on. There are laws to ban fishing in areas where fish numbers are low or when fish are endangered, such as areas with coral reefs. In Hurghada in Egypt, we have laws that prevent catching fish. Now we have also the technology of you making fish farms where we allow fish to grow under controlled conditions to help them grow faster, reproduce faster, so that these are the fish that are caught to be used for feeding humans. We can make aquariums where endangered fish can live and reproduce safely away from their predators. Many places now have, many countries have aquariums such as those. Two other solutions is restocking and fish farming. We're going to talk about them in a bit of more detail. Restocking here means that we keep up the numbers of special species of fish so that they breed and increase by adding fish hatcheries. So the small fish are added to the water. This is usually done in fresh water so that their numbers increase. So this is a way to increase the numbers. Fish farming is a method that produces a good amount of protein without endangering the fish in wildlife. How is that done? Well, we make enclosures, a space that is enclosed with a net uh, around it so that only the fish inside is the fish that we are using in the fish farm or trying to grow in the fish farm. The food is added to them, making sure that there's enough food for these fish to grow. And then these are the fish that we use to sell for human consumption. Some of the species that we use in fish farms or usually grow in fish farms are salmon, tuna, cod, trout, halibut. So now in certain countries, such as in Egypt, now we have around 70% of fish that is consumed each year is grown in fish farms, which protects the fish in the seas. Factors to consider when fish farming. One of the things that we need to provide for fish is food. Fish is fed regularly with fish that other fish that is less tasty. Humans do not eat them. While predators are kept away, of course. So if it's in an open place, then there are nets around this area and even on top so that birds do not catch these fish. Maintenance of water quality. Well, water has to be flowing daily in and out of the fish farm. Sometimes we use the tides of that place so that water comes in and out every day to replace oxygen so that the fish respire. Also, we control predation Predation is when a predator eats the prey, and sometimes big fish eat small fish of the same species. We call that intraspecific predation. So we try to make sure that big fish are in different areas than small fish. So this helps to prevent intrapredation. Interpredation is when other different species uh, feed on the fish that we try to grow in fish farms. So we keep away the predators by using meshes sizes that will not allow other predators from entering these areas. Other factors to consider when fish farming, well, we need to control diseases. Growing fish in an enclosed area, usually there is a higher density than in normal open spaces such as rivers and seas and oceans. So this encourages the transmission of diseases between fish. To control that, then chemicals are added to the water to kill these pests or bacteria or fungi. One other thing is the quality of the food. It has to be rich in protein so that the fish grow fast. If we add too much food, the food will leak out to the waters around it. If we add too little, the fish will not grow as quickly as we want. Uh, well, having the fish enclosed in a certain place, this will allow the fish farmers to choose which organisms can reproduce. Sometimes we need fish to have certain qualities so that they are tastier when people eat it. Maybe we want them to have smaller bones, for example, so that it is easier to eat. So this is done by selective breeding. Here, this is a report showing aquaculture or fish farms. It shows that 65% of Egypt's fish is from food from fish farms, which is a good achievement. Now, household waste. These are wastes that are produced by any normal house. So we have plastics, we have glass, we have paper, we have metals, we have chemicals as well, we have paper. So these are usually thrown in landfills, and they are covered and they are left to decompose. But some of them don't decompose as quickly as we would like, such as plastics. They remain hundreds and hundreds of years before they start to decompose. Now, we have thought of, people have been doing that for many years now, uh, dividing their trash into different bins so that they could be recycled. This will reduce the costs of producing these plastics and metal cans and paper. Instead of cutting new trees, now we can recycle our paper. Instead of mining for different metals, we can recycle whatever metals that we have. This reduces the amount of energy that we use in our factories, so it solves a lot of problems at the same time. Can we help the environment other than recycling? Yes, we can. So let's think of ways. There are many ways. Some of them the governments uh, have a role in them by using solar panels to generate electricity, or maybe windmills, maybe providing transportation that does not use fossil fuels and maybe use biofuels, such as this bus over here. And some of them is our choices of choosing special light bulbs that save electricity and so forth. So, how can we reduce the amount of fossil fuels that are burned? What things can we do? Let's think. Transport, public transport. Yes, if we can use more public transport instead of individual cars, this will reduce the amount of fossil fuels that are burned. Also, bicycles and maybe walking to any nearby destinations. that will be a good choice as well. Some countries, and this is a photo here from Egypt, are now trying to make electrical cars. Yes, many countries have began earlier than us, but we are still on following. The electrical cars will be a good addition so that less pollution is in the air and less fossil fuels are used. Light bulbs have been even evolving. The incandescent light bulb on the left side, that one used a lot of electricity, and only some of it was changed to light and the rest was changed to heat, so it was not very efficient. The one in the middle was better, more efficient, and now we have the LED light bulbs, and these are even more efficient. So if I use electricity saving appliances, this will reduce the burning of fossil fuels. Using renewable energy whenever we can. Now it's affordable to some people to buy solar panels or to make other ways. Using biofuel. What is that? Let's check it out. Biofuel is when we try to change organic material into fuel. Here we have a lady in her farm, and this structure she's standing behind is a biodigester. It produces gas, and the gas comes out of this green tube and it reaches her house. She uses this gas to cook her food. So here we have a diagram down there to show how this biodigester works. Feces from animals, from humans, and even plant material that is not needed, such as dead leaves and so forth, are all collected into this biodigester. It could be below the ground, it could be above the ground, doesn't matter much. But here, decomposers start to digest those wastes, producing methane gas. Methane gas burns cleanly and is used for cooking, for if it's a place where I need to warm my house, I could burn this methane to warm up the house. The advantage of using this biogas is that it does not need a person to cut trees any longer to get to cook his meals or to warm up his house. There is no need to pay money so that you get fuel such as coal or logs, wood logs. And when the when methane burns, because it only produces carbon dioxide and water, so there is no smoke, which causes a person to breathe clean air, so there are no respiratory diseases. That is because methane, when as it burns, produces only carbon dioxide and water, which do not affect the respiratory system much. This helps to cycle or recycle the wastes into methane gas that is used instead of allowing it to escape into the environment, causing global warming as well. Alternative fuel, biofuel, is not only produced in biodigesters, also we can use plants such as maize to produce fuel, and this has been done in Brazil. They have produced what we call gasohol or bioethanol, where gasoline, petrol, and ethanol are mixed together so that the car doesn't use only fossil fuels. It uses a bit of alcohol produced by growing maize. Some people argue, well, growing maize will cause the prices of oil to rise. Instead of feeding people, now it's used for cars. So also it is used to feed animals. So there will be a problem with providing food for animals and humans. So people came up with new ideas. We don't stop getting new ideas. Here, this person is standing next to algae that he grows, not using any piece of land, just using uh, clear plastic bags that are hanging to receive enough sunlight, and then the yeast grow is used to digest this algae or use the chemicals that these algae have produced, such as sugars, of course, as they photosynthesize, and the yeast produces alcohol, so alcohol can be made without growing plants, without using land, without using pesticides. So we can still make things better. In many countries, such as Egypt as well, some places, such as universities and some new cities, are placing these recycling bins so that we encourage people to recycle more. Sustainable development. Well, um, as the population increase, we need to build more houses. We need to build more roads, more factories and industries to produce more food and more resources for us uh, without damaging the environment. Could that be done? Yes, it could. We call that sustainable development. Here, with the cooperation between different authorities such as the government and the developers, people, when they plan well before they start building houses with strict regulations, the developers can be deterred from harming the environment. Instead of harming the environment when you build this new city, let's think about the environment. How can we help it? So maybe in some cities now we can see that some are trying to make solar panels on the roofs, or maybe add more green areas so that it improves the quality of the air in the city. These are many ideas. There are many ideas to help the environment. To conserve forests. The word conservation means to prevent something from finishing or being used up. So we need to conserve forests, we need to conserve fish, such as we have spoken before in fish farming. How can we do that? Well, we governments can refuse to grant licenses. So when companies want to cut down forests, they are not allowed unless there is a plan to plant more trees to replace the ones that they have cut, or to use methods such as coppicing. Here in this photo on the top, we can see a tree, and instead of cutting the tree fully, no, they cut it a little bit higher up to so that the plant can regrow the next spring, and after several years there is enough wood that can be cut once more, so that this is a way to conserve these plants. Cutting down some trees and leaving some, this is a method called selective felling. Selective felling is, as you can see in the second photo, some of the trees have been cut down, but the rest are not. This allows also organisms that live in this area to survive. The soil will not be blown away or washed away, so there is no soil erosion. This helps the living organisms to survive. Primary forests are those which were never cut down. Because they contain huge numbers of species, governments ban cutting trees in such places and such forests. We're done with our course. Yes, it has been a long year, I know that, but you are up to it. You can still revise, you can still solve questions, make sure that you have practiced well. You are up to it. I'm sure you can make yourself and others proud of your achievements. Work hard this period of time before your exams. You can do it, I'm sure. Um, I'm waiting anxiously for the day when you are graduating. It will be one of my happiest days. So Let's see you on the graduation day. Bye bye.